Want to welcome everyone to this interactive dyad. We are this is one in our continuing series of seminars from the Office of Practice and Research, and so we have we have our Center for Practice and Research today, who's going to present, and it's my pleasure to present the co-director of the center, Ms. Angie Peden, and Ms. Michela-E Hizine. And I'll let them introduce themselves, tell you a little bit more about it. And then I have a brief announcement if you hang on at the very end of this. So I'm turning it over. Ms. Peden, Ms. Hizine, the show is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Telfair. We are really excited to be here today. And I just want to thank everyone for logging on. If you're in Statesboro, it's a great day to be outside. So I appreciate you staying in with us and listening to our presentation. So we will go ahead and get started. We're going to talk to you today about some work that a team of us did in Hancock County, working with them. So this was a rather large project team. We actually conducted 3 different SWOT workshops. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. So it really required quite an extensive team of faculty and students from multiple colleges. So we were really glad to have everyone participate with us on this project. So today for our outline, we're going to review our project purpose. We're going to talk about the process, and then I really want to focus on some of the challenges and lessons learned, and then also just review with you some of the products that we're hoping to or have produced from this project. So today I am really excited to have with me an alumni who was my graduate assistant for 2 years. So I have Michaela here with me, and we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to let her take it away on the next few slides. So Michaela.
So the purpose of the project was for us to use a REACH grant that Hancock County had acquired, specifically the North Central Health District. They were awarded the REACH grant in 2018. REACH grants are CDC funds, and what REACH stands for is Racial and Ethnic Approaches to Community Health. So these are CDC funded grants, and they're used to help reduce the health disparities among racial and ethnic populations with the highest burdens of chronic disease. And we'll get into Hancock County's makeup a little bit later, but through these interventions that are supposed to be culturally tailored, they're used to address preventable risk behaviors like tobacco use, poor nutrition, and physical inactivity. So the Center for Public Health Practice and Research was awarded a contract to help assist with the planning and the facilitation of 3 different SWOT workshops. Next. So I'm just going to tell you a few things about Hancock County. It's the 135th most populated county out of 159 counties in Georgia. The population is a little over 8,000 people. And a few fun facts about Hancock County. It's the major producer of olive oil and wood, one of the major producers in the Southeast. It ranks 147th in health rankings for overall health outcomes, and it ranks 159, so last, for the quality of life and social and economic factors. Next, please. So a little bit more about Hancock County's population. As far as the demographics go, it's 71% non-Hispanic African American individuals. So out of that 8,000, around 6,100 are African American non-Hispanic individuals. Also, the population is a little older, so they're not retaining as many younger people. So can you click next for me? So the North Central Health District health behaviors mapped out a chart of behaviors, and we pretty much compared them to Hancock County and the state of Georgia and where that ranks them as far as county rankings. So Hancock County, for a few of their rankings, are actually over, they surpassed the limits of Georgia. So their adult obesity is higher than the state of Georgia's, as well as their adult smoking. And they are close to it with their food environment index. And so what that kind of tells us is their ability to have nutritious, fresh food. Next. So as far as Hancock County's, one of their biggest issues is their rate of diabetes. And so Hancock County has been reported to have a higher diabetes related ER visit rate than the state of Georgia as a whole. And 83% of the Medicare enrollees ages 65 to 75 receive their regular A1C monitoring. And A1C monitoring is pretty much a monitoring that tells us about how the body is processing glucose and sugar as a whole. And African American females have the highest diabetes related ER visits, while African American males have the highest diabetes related hospitalization rates. Next. So only 9% of the population reports having adequate access to locations to have physical activity in Hancock County. When we went to visit, we got to see where the people lived and why there was a lack of access for physical activity. So they have the land and the space, but sometimes the land and the space is privately owned or it's not very accessible. So there's not many sidewalks or parks or walking trails for them to utilize the vast amount of land that they have. And health outcomes ranks Hancock County 153rd out of 159 for having these spaces. And Georgia has a 24% physical inactivity rate, whereas Hancock County has a 30%. And their obesity rate is, again, higher than the standard for Georgia. So it is remarkable that the rate of cardiovascular disease is a lot higher in Hancock County than it is for the entire state of Georgia. They have an 18% hospitalization rate due to heart disease as compared to the state of Georgia with their, I believe it's 14.5%. Next. So what the Center for Public Health Research and Practice, what our job was to go in and do the SWOT analyses. And Angie's going to tell you a bit more about our specific process, but I just want to tell you that the SWOT analysis means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so what we did was go in with the community members of Hancock County and allow them to identify the strengths. So what the community did well, their weaknesses, what they didn't do so well, their opportunities. So this is any of the external factors for the county that they could take advantage of to help them meet their REACH goals. And then the threats. So those would be external factors beyond the control of Hancock County that could make it difficult for them to reach their goals for the REACH funding. Next.
Okay, thanks so much, Kay. So like we were sharing, like Kay and I were sharing with you earlier, we did 3 different workshops for the REACH project. The first one was about community clinical linkages, and the idea behind this strategy was to collaborate with partners to increase referrals and access to community-based health programs for their priority population, which was their African American population. So they were hoping to promote the use of locally available programs and also expand the use of health professionals to increase referrals of community members who fit into their priority population to local health and preventative care programs. The next workshop that we completed was the physical activity strategy workshop. And the idea behind this strategy was to collaborate with partners to improve physical activity in their priority population, to connect their community with everyday destinations. So this one was challenging, given what Kay had shared earlier with you about the current status of their recreation opportunities in the county, not only their location but also the current state of their opportunities. So we were trying to come up with ideas for activity-friendly routes to connect people in the community where they work, live, and play. So the next workshop was the nutrition strategy workshop, and they had previously in Hancock County completed both a community health needs assessment and also a community health improvement plan. So in particular with their nutrition strategy, this was building off of the work they had already done as part of their community health improvement plan. But the idea was to continue to collaborate and push forward ideas to improve nutrition within the county, specifically to establish healthy nutrition standards in key organizations and to work with local grocery and convenience stores. There's not a lot of grocery options in the county, so they also added convenience stores to try to provide healthy food options. Also improve access to local nutrition programs such as SNAP and WIC.
Yes, to add on to what Angie was saying about the programs, they also tried to, like she said, open additional convenience stores, and they had an abundance of Dollar Trees or Family Dollars.
Dollar General, I think it was.
Dollar General, yes. Yeah. So they were trying to pretty much add freezer sections to their Dollar Generals so that people would be able to have access to more fresh produce and other goods that are fresh, like milk and other dairy products. And a lot of their land was privately owned. So they had like the vegetable farms and everything, but a lot of those were privately owned, and they shipped out their produce to other locations. So they basically were left with the convenience stores and the Dollar General, right, Angie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they have one grocery store within the county.
And one grocery store, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And for their physical activity, they did have a Parks and Rec Center, but it was dilapidated, so that wouldn't be very useful for them.
It was. Thank you, Kay. All right, so for our process, like I shared with you before, we decided to put together a rather extensive team of faculty and students because of the great difference between the different strategies. They were actually quite different. So we needed a variety of folks on our team. And we decided to utilize the SWOT process that Kay described. We used the one that was within NACCHO's developing for local health department strategic plan. So it's like a how-to guide for their SWOT process. We use that as kind of our idea for our process. And this included a secondary data scan. Then we took time, the whole team, to prepare each presentation that we were going to share at the beginning of each workshop. And then we would review not only the agenda, but also this presentation of the data scan. Our team would review that with the REACH team, and we would make edits. And that process sometimes was lengthy. Then we would execute each of the workshops. After that, we would take all the data that we gathered at the workshop, and we would analyze that data and then work all that together into reports. And we actually developed 3 separate reports for each of the strategies. So the data scan, and Kay was really instrumental in this. So Kay, feel free to interrupt me and add anything in here. They were varied for each one. As I said before, each strategy was quite different, but they all included health indicators, the population demographics. And I'll say here that it was important to include these same this data in each of the workshops, because there were different people that attended each workshop. So some people came to all three, but we found that at each workshop there was always someone new. So we did feel that it was necessary to review some of the data scans, such as health indicators, population demographics, specific community assets that varied depending on the strategy that we were addressing. And we also tried to put together, you'll see here on the slide, asset maps. So this was the asset map that we put together for the physical activity strategy. So just showing the community where they had access to recreation activities. Additional data that depended on which strategy, which workshop that we were conducting were healthy food options, different nutrition programming that was available in the county and some surrounding counties. Access to care specifically, we included access and opportunities outside of the county, because there are very few opportunities for healthcare within the county. Recreation opportunities, like I said, this asset map here, and then also built environment access.
Yeah, to add on to what Angie was saying about the health indicators and the population demographics, it was very important for us to kind of just understand the mindset already of the people there and how to engage them when we're getting the data, and how to make sure that we convey all of this information correctly to every session that we had in the way that it needed to be conveyed.
Mm-hmm. And Kay is going to talk a little bit more about challenges. She did much of this data collection, and in just a little bit, she's going to talk about the challenges of data collection in a rural county where it's not, you can't just go online and gather all the data that you need. Sometimes you have to do some real digging to get this information. So the workshops themselves, we started with, as I said before, they had already conducted a community health improvement plan. So we took time to review those with the group each time. Then we reviewed the assets, so what the community had to offer. And you'll see here in these pictures that we took there in Hancock County, they had a senior citizen center, so you'll see that photo there. And they did have an active, actually, you'll note there aren't any plants there. They had just finished this community garden when we had gotten there, so they were getting ready to plant. But they used local resources and local help to get this project done, and that's right behind the Senior Citizen Center. So they were really excited about that project that was already underway when we had gotten there. As far as routes, these pictures here, really, they're not showing assets, they're showing opportunities for improvement. So you'll note in the picture where you can see the semi truck that they don't have crosswalks or sidewalks or even caution lights. So it's difficult for people to walk on their roadways, and also just lack of sidewalks. They have created dirt trails to really connect what they were considering everyday locations within the county. So we also talked about CDC recommendations, so what they could do, what the CDC was looking for as far as executing these ideas as a part of the REACH grant. We reviewed their data scan, and so just reviewed with them all of the things that we found out about their county. One thing that I thought was really important during these workshops, and it was amazing how much we learned from the first workshop to the third one. We learned so much about the community and really how to improve the workshops as we moved forward. But one thing that I felt was really important, and Kay, let me know your thoughts on this, was after we would do the data scan, then we opened it up to the group, and it was amazing how, because we were obviously outsiders, it was amazing how they said, well, you missed this, and what about this? Things that that we didn't find, that we couldn't easily find. And so then we compiled that information, and then we're able to share that as part of assets or challenges in their final report.
Yes, I would agree with Angie. It was very helpful to have the community, which is the reason we do the SWOT in the first place, is to have the community involved in helping their community because they know their community best. And so what we had to rely on was just phone calls and emails and hoping that it was online. But the people who lived in that community every single day knew about hidden resources that we were just unaware of and had no way to know these things. So they were very instrumental in helping us help them.
Absolutely. So after that, then we broke the group into smaller groups to conduct the SWOT, and we had facilitators who worked with each group. And basically, we had questions that we gave to them to really guide them. It was difficult to keep the community focused on the individual strategies because everyone has great ideas. So we really had to keep pulling the discussion back to what each strategy was focused on. So we went through each SWOT, and Linda's on the call. She may have something to share here as well. But we kind of have, due to time, what we kind of used is what Linda and I described as kind of like a speed dating SWOT, where you would take the ideas from one group. So one group would start with the strengths, and then you would move that through so that we had time to go through everything. So one group would start, and then each group would add on to those ideas. So we were really able to gather some really rich information during that time. After that, the REACH team provided lunch to everyone who attended, and that was a really great time for not only the community members to talk with each other, because we had just discussed all these great ideas during the SWOT, but for us to also get to know the REACH team and also other community members. So after lunch, then we gave them all the opportunity to view all the data that was gathered, all the ideas that were put forth during the SWOT, and then prioritize that. And we had them use stickers to do that. It's a quite simple process, but it really works well, especially since you really can't rely on technology or internet or anything in Hancock County. They really struggle with access to internet. So here are some photos from the SWOT. These are actually from the physical activity SWOT, and we had a lot of our team members here that attended, and then also the REACH team. They were fantastic, and they really helped us during this session. So you'll see here different groups that were discussing. I'm not sure which ones they were discussing here, but they either the strengths, weaknesses, or opportunities and threats. So like I said, we really tried to keep them focused on the particular strategy. And then we had large flip charts there, and someone was the record keeper, and they would write all the ideas down. These are some photos of the prioritization process. So we spread out all of the papers that had the ideas that were recorded in each of the groups. And then people were given stickers, and they were given an opportunity to vote for each of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that they thought were most important. I think this allows people that attended who maybe weren't comfortable talking in the group. This allowed them to really have an opportunity to say, this is important to me. So the prioritization process, I thought, was really important. So for our data analysis, so after each workshop, we took all of this information back to the college, and the team worked together to analyze all of this data that we collected. So we ranked all of the information from the SWOT by the number of votes that each received for each category. And we did have to combine things, and we did manipulate the data some, but we really tried to keep it as true to what their ideas were as possible. We also created tree maps, word clouds, and then a synthesis matrix for each workshop. I'm going to show you some of those. So right here we have the opportunities, the word cloud for the opportunities, and this was for the physical activity strategy. And these were some of the opportunities that the group came up with that during their discussion. This was the strengths tree map that they came up with, or that we actually developed using the data that the group came up with during the SWOT. And so these are the strengths that they developed and came up with for the nutrition strategy. And you can see here that each idea, you can see how many votes each idea received. And then we tried to categorize them into different categories, such as organizations, businesses, and then individual for this one. So you'll see WIC on here. They have a Family Connections backpack program. And so that's where they send backpacks of food home with students so that they have something to eat during the weekend. So summer camps, kids meals, they do have quite a robust senior home meal delivery program. And then quite a few community gardens, and then nutrition education organizations and programming. So we thought this was a great way to take, because sometimes data can be overwhelming, especially when you're giving it back to a community. So we tried to create some visuals to really organize some of the ideas that they came up with. Here is the SWOT matrix that we came up with. And so this one is for nutrition. Oh, no, sorry, excuse me. This one's for clinical and community linkages. And so we tried to put them together, put the ideas into the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then using the information that we gathered from the group, and also our knowledge of both the area and some of these ideas, we tried to put them into a continuum. And I don't want to put Linda on the spot, but if she wants to comment on this, that would be great. But we tried to put them into a continuum of ideas that we thought were more plausible, and ideas that we really thought were going to be a little bit more challenging for the county.
I'll chime in, Angie.
Please do.
You know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats often sound like it's going to be straightforward. But when you start doing it, you quickly realize it's not. And so people often name opportunities that are really strengths, or vice versa, or people will see something that is really probably going to be a challenge, but it can also be an opportunity if you look at it with a different lens. And so you start to realize that categorization is challenging. But then, you know, if you're going to think about strategies that are actually actionable, you have to kind of combine those. So what opportunities can we actually use our strengths to act on? Or what challenges what weaknesses are we going to have to overcome to conquer challenges? And so that was kind of what we tried to do with this matrix, was to combine and synthesize strengths and opportunities to overcome challenges where there was a theme. I guess you'd call it a thematic analysis, to come up with actionable strategies.
Thanks, Linda. And you'll see here, and this is information that, you know, isn't new to us as public health professionals, but and I know I've shared this already, just saying that, you know, we had to try to keep people focused on the actual strategy. But as we all know, you know, substandard housing and plumbing and limited access to healthy foods, that comes into the conversation when we're talking about, community and clinical linkages. So it's really, you have to keep everything together. You can't leave some of those things out. So we saw some of these ideas coming up in all three of the strategies. All right, so I want to talk a little bit more about some of the challenges and then the lessons learned that we learned during this work here. Communication was challenging for this project. So the actual REACH grant was being managed and executed by the health district. And then they helped to form a REACH team in the county. So us, as we were basically contractors, then we had to kind of navigate who we were talking to. Were we communicating with the district that actually contracted with us to do the work, or were we communicating with the REACH team? So that was challenging, and we had to work through some bumps along the road in that. Luckily, we got to do 3 different workshops over a period of time. So I think we were able to work through some of those communication challenges, but it was definitely a lesson learned for me as lead on this project. Luckily, we had a great team here, and that communication I thought went really well, and we all worked together quite well. Kay, do you want to talk a little bit more about some challenges with small town or small county data gathering?
Yes, so the small county data gathering was probably one of the most challenging things about that I've done in data gathering thus far. So we started trying to gather data online from, the typical sources, the CDC, OASIS, county health rankings, just trying to, grasp where we were and get some type of standard. Unfortunately, that was a lot easier said than done. I ended up making a lot of phone calls. I ended up, after actually our first initial SWOT exercise, then I started to gather phone numbers of contacts of people who lived in the county so that I was able to get somewhere to make more calls to get information. So this wasn't the typical data gathering from the internet. It was a lot more of me making phone calls, me writing things down, me looking at maps, me actually viewing the county when we went on our first SWOT to actually count, the grocery stores and see the county. So the data gathering was a bit difficult, but in the end, we got it done.
Yeah, we're actually one of the REACH team members. He was a new graduate, actually, of our program, which is pretty exciting, on the Armstrong campus, and he took us on a tour of the area. So we were actually in Sparta, and let us take pictures and really talk to us about all the challenges, and it was extremely eye-opening and really helpful that he was able to do that with us. Another challenge that we encountered, and this kind of goes back to the communication challenge that we had, was this idea that, and I think this is something that you often encounter as public health professionals when you go into a community, that you never want it to seem like you are doing something to the community. You want to do this work with them. It was a little bit challenging for us because of that we were contracted by the district, and then we came into this, and we were under the impression that the REACH team was really interested and excited to have us come help, and I'm not sure that was the case for the whole REACH team. So there was a little bit of pushback with that because we were coming from the outside. We weren't members of the community, but we really worked hard with them, and I think in the end, and Kay, you can comment on this as well. I think in the end they did see what we were able to bring to the group as beneficial.
Yeah, to comment a little bit more on the outsider's comment, they were a bit weary in the beginning. And I remember our first SWOT, there was an older gentleman and he came to me and he kind of was, let me whisper a question in your ear. I'm like, okay, I'll ask, answer your question. And he goes, what are you guys going to do to us? And I kind of had to explain to him that we weren't scientists there to do anything, odd or unethical to them, that we were there to just kind of help them utilize the resources they had. Like, we were not coming in any way to do anything to anyone. I think making that clear and making our stance clear as we're here to help and we're not here to tell you what to do, I think was very beneficial to building that relationship so that they were more open and we were able to give them what they needed to help themselves fix their own community.
Absolutely. Literacy. So this was a challenge that we didn't foresee prior to going into this. And looking back, sometimes, hindsight is 2020 and we probably should have. They did so the REACH team did all of the recruitment and they did for the workshops, and they did an amazing, phenomenal job getting community members to come to these workshops. I can't stress that enough. I know we've all been involved in different activities where, it can be challenging to get people to attend, and they did a fantastic job. And we're going to talk a little bit about how they did that. But one thing that we encountered that we weren't prepared for is a lack of literacy with the attendees at the workshops. So this was something that we kind of were figuring out during the workshop. So we had to kind of pivot and make some adjustments. But coming from the first workshop, which was about community clinical linkages, and we had a lot more, we had practitioners and some public health professionals from the county and surrounding counties, then moving through to the other workshops where there were more community members that had different jobs throughout the county. And so we tried to include more pictures and less text in the slides as we moved forward, and tried to be really cognizant that during the actual SWOT that we needed to make sure that we didn't make anyone uncomfortable with asking them to write or anything like that, and just really helping them work through it, and also having someone at each of the posters during the prioritization process in case someone needed assistance with reading some of the material. And then the partial process involvement. So we were only working on the SWOT section of this work. So it's always challenging to just be involved in one piece of community work. So we were only doing the SWOT, and then we were kind of giving them all this information and saying, go forward and do good things. So that was kind of challenging to only be one part of the process. And then the three separate workshops, that was both a challenge and also an asset, I thought, because we definitely learned from moving forward one to the next, and then learning as you go. I think that always happens. We definitely, had the opportunity to learn from each thing. Kay, do you want to talk a little bit about how they got so many folks to come to the workshops?
So one of the main ways that you can get anyone to come out, especially me, I'm kidding, but anyone to come out, is to feed them. And so during the SWOT workshops, we always we hosted with food, very good, delicious food. And so that was one of the ways. And the second incentive was after they just let us know that they came, their participation, that they came, they received a $10 gift card. Angie, do you remember where the gift card was from by chance?
I don't.
Okay.
Well,
they received a $10 gift card, and that was another incentive to get people to come out. The gift cards and the food were very helpful to kind of put it into perspective for you. The median income in Hancock County is around $31,000, a little over $31,000. And they're in a food desert, you know, they're having some access to food issues. So to be able to let the people come out and eat and participate in something and then get the gift card was very helpful to them and very helpful to us, because that gave us more people to come out so that we had a better scope of what was going on. And
great,
all of their ways to help them. Right.
Yeah. And they really put together really healthy food for these workshops. So it was, we appreciated that.
And again, like Angie said, the eating gave them, the community members and us, a chance to sit with them and talk to them and get to know them. And that made them more comfortable. It also gave them a chance to kind of discuss some things that they may not have wanted to say openly or talk about when we were actually writing everything for the SWOT analysis, the SWOT groups. But it gave them a chance to kind of get more information out of each other and network and share with each other the things that they would like to see happen in their community or that they had as a resource to their community. So the eating was not just to feed them something that was nutritious, but it was also to help them kind of engage with each other and engage with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as I shared with you all before, we produced 3 separate reports for this project. If anybody's interested in a copy of one of these reports, I'd be happy to share. We also were accepted to do a GPHA conference presentation. Unfortunately, that was last year and that was canceled due to COVID. So we're hoping that GPHA isn't meeting this year, but we're hoping maybe next year to present that and also to write a brief report to be published in the journal GPHA. So those are some of the products that came out of this project. All right, so questions. We're open for any questions, and of course, you can always email Kay or I if you prefer that format. So questions or comments? I'd love to hear any comments or any similar experiences that anyone has had with community work.
Hi, Michaela and Angie. This is Charles. Have you had an update recently that kind of advise if how they're coming along or where they are today, actually?
I haven't. I actually reached out to the district when we were putting together the conference abstract. So to kind of see where they were, that kind of got halted during the COVID times.
Sure.
I do know, and I think that this is something that happens a lot. I know that they have funds to hire people to be on this REACH team, and they have really struggled with keeping staff there. And it is a struggle. And I would encourage any students that are on this call to not discount work in rural communities. And it doesn't mean that you have to spend 5 years there, but try to stay there a year or 2 years, especially at an area like Hancock County. A lot of people will live in surrounding areas and come in to do the work. But Charles, they've really struggled with keeping people as on as part of the REACH team.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand
I know you've done a lot of work in that county as well, and they're struggling.
Yeah, hoping to see the needle move soon, eventually.
Yeah, definitely.
So to both of you, I do have a question. So this, the goal of this DYAD seminar is to also provide information on the experience itself. Thank you first of all for this work, and thank you for sharing it. But can both of you speak a little bit about the mentoring type of experiences that you had and what you learned about it? And this is kind of building off the last suggestion of the need for us to have more persons willing to work in this area as well as to learn.
Well, I know Kay has something to share about this, so I will let her share that. But I am incredibly proud of Kay and the work that she accomplished during her graduate assistantship, and also she is finishing. She's in her last semester of nursing school, so which we're really excited about. So go Kay, yay! But I'll let Kay share kind of her ideas on how working in rural communities has impacted her.
Wow, I have a lot to say about this actually. So I think, honestly, working for the Center for Public Health Practice and Research with Andy and Charles was a culminating experience for me, honestly. It solidified who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do in my career. And they were just overall very helpful people, and not just with networking, but the actual application, because it's one thing to go through your public health classes and learn about the theories and the concepts and, you know, the frameworks, but to actually apply them is a totally different thing. To learn how to apply them and pull concepts from different theories, and to make kind of like something sort of like a new type of framework almost. To be able to help communities is a very different thing. It's very different to go into communities and actually facilitate the SWOT groups and the focus groups and learn how to do that properly. I feel like is a vital skill, because when I go more into my public health career, I can say, you know, I know how to do these things and this is how to do them. And I'm not just lost. I have application. I have experience in doing those things. And I feel like that was very vital. So I had two great mentors. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Peden, anything about the experience of the mentoring side?
I love working with students, and Kay was a fantastic student. I've been very, very blessed to have fantastic students. I mean, all of our students are fantastic here at JPH, but the center, we've been really lucky to work with some really fantastic, very high achieving students.
And I wonder if anybody from your team, Soren, Kimsey, Mays, those that you worked with, do you have any comments in that area?
This is Charles, Dr. Telfair. I mean, it's just exciting to work with the students and help them experience a community that they probably haven't lived in and been for a significant amount of time. And so being able to expose them to something new and different. A lot of it's the same for us when we go into a new community that we've not experienced before, but getting to share that discovery process with them is very fulfilling.
And to add one more thing, but I do feel like when you get that exposure, when you get that experience to connect with communities in rural areas and understand their needs and how you could best serve them, it is really instrumental in getting students to be more willing to go into these areas long term. So like, yes, I unfortunately did leave the rural area for now, but it's not my long-term goal to stay out of the rural area. I plan to go back and apply all of the things that I have learned from my master's in public health and also this master's in nursing. So we're going the whole way, you know, we're just gathering more information and getting more experience so that when we go back to these rural communities, we go with as much experience and help as we can provide.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Mays.
I thought it just reminded me so much of sort of my past journey. At times you get so far away from your own communities. Like I grew up in a rural community too. And then you individually, you take this whole educational journey and you're embroiled in academia and all these different things. And then in that moment of your practicum and in that moment of your practice life, you step back and you see like, oh, now I see it from a different lens with my professional public health lens. And this was an excellent presentation. And just thank you so much for sharing this, because it brought me back to, wow, what a journey that is, where you are part of a community, but you have no awareness back then. But then you become part of giving back. And then the community questions, you know, are you authentic? Do you have my best interest? And then you're not really part of that community, but you're still part of that community. So this was a beautiful presentation. Thank you so much for your good work. And Angie, this is wonderful. And And all your students are doing great work. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. May. So Ms. Peden, we do have, or Ms. Hines, we do have a question.
Great.
They said it was a great job. And could you let them know who your community partners were, your key partners in the project were?
So, and if they could elaborate on the question, are you looking for on our team, on our university team, or some partners that the REACH team was working with?
Yeah. So if you can unmute yourself, ZS, and just speak, that would be great.
Hi, Angie. Thank you for your work. I just want to know who were your partners in the community, not at the university. Thank you.
Sure. So, like I said, we really were working directly with the REACH team, and then they were doing most of the community work. As I shared, one of the challenges with this is we were only involved in a small piece of this work. So the REACH team was really working with the different partners throughout the community. So we did most of our work directly with them. But as I'd have to go back and look at the attendance sheet. But at the different workshops, I mean, we had, and Kay, and Linda, if you think of anyone else, please share it with me. But we had, Board of Health members. We had road workers. We had
Dentists.
public health professionals there. We had small business owners. We had just lots of different types of county workers, and state workers.
Church members.
Yeah, church members. Yeah,
Yes.
that was another one. And I'm trying to remember, Linda, the one woman that attended all of them. Was she on the Board of Commissioners? Do you remember who I'm talking about?
I cannot remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah.
But if you're interested, I'd be happy to share the attendance list so you can see some of the folks that were working or and attended some of these sessions.
Sure, thank you.
Angie, I have a question.
Yes.
Just a follow up to that. So did Georgia Power have any part on that team, considering they run the lake that runs through Sparta?
BJ, I'd have to go back and look. It's been a little while. I can't remember if there was someone there directly from Georgia Power, but I'd be happy to look. We did have, like I said, different like public works people there, but I don't recall that. But I'll go back and look.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, so again, on behalf of our college and our office and everyone, we want to thank both of you for excellent presentation. We're hoping that more persons are willing to provide this type of presentation. So a brief announcement. In the seminar series, we have several coming up. We would direct you to the site of our college and direct you to the Office of Practice and Research, and you can see the upcoming seminars that we have that are great ones like this one. And we would encourage you very strongly to attend. We also will be, and we're asking that everyone there, I think we captured most people. We normally have an assessment to tell us how it went, and we hope to get that to you in short order. And we want to thank you for your time. Look out for other seminars. And if you have any suggestions for other areas that you think would be really good for us to invite speakers at all levels, we would be happy to do that. So anyway, thank you both.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Telfair.
Absolutely.
Thank
Please
you.
come back. we, bring more persons, we'll do that. Anyway, so we thank you for your time, and we hope that the rest of y'all have a good rest of the week. And then please send us any ideas or suggestions. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.